What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the DCEU season here on Cinematic Reviews. As always, I'll be your host, Chris, and this is the show about all things movies and TV. Every week, I give my thoughts on the newest releases, beloved franchises, and even upcoming projects like Star Wars and Marvel. You can, of course, support the show by giving it a rating/review on your favorite podcast service. You can also follow Cinematic Reviews on all social media platforms, including the very popular TikTok. I really do appreciate all the support out there from you guys. You are truly awesome. Now today, we continue our journey through the DC Extended Universe with Zack Snyder's Justice League, or the Snyder Cut, as some refer to it as. There's a lot to talk about and unpack, so let's kick things off first with some facts before diving into this 4-hour DC event. Zack Snyder's Justice League, aka the Snyder Cut, was released on HBO Max on March 18th, 2021. It was, of course, directed by Zack Snyder, who is best known for Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Justice League, of course, Dawn of the Dead, and Watchmen. Since it was released on HBO Max, there isn't a solid grossing number for it. The most recent number that I could find was back in January of this year. It reportedly made $650 million. With the additional $70 million that Snyder used in order to finish the film for its release, the budget is estimated to be around $300 million. In my mind, doubling your money is a huge success, so bravo, Zack. It wasn't about the money, though. He simply just wanted his version out there. Snyder and Henry Cavill officially announced the release of the Snyder Cut in May 2020 during a virtual watch party of Man of Steel. According to Snyder, no shots that were filmed by Joss Whedon are in this version. Snyder has never even seen the theatrical cut of Justice League. Christopher Nolan and his wife, Deborah Snyder, who he works with on all of his projects, advised him not to. And I second that. Zack, never watch it. It'll break your heart, man. The police officer, Jerry, who Lois gives coffee to at the Superman Memorial in a couple scenes throughout the film, actually played Jimmy Olsen in the 1978 Superman film, which starred Christopher Reeves as Superman. Both Deborah and Zack confirmed that only 5 minutes of new shots with actors were done for the release date, along with over 2,000 new visual effects shots. This isn't the first time that Warner Brothers has released a director's cut due to public pressure. A similar issue to the Snyder Cut happened with Superman 2 back in 1980. The original director was Richard Donner, who was fired by producers and replaced by Richard Lester. Lester's changes to the film, along with Lois Lane actress Margaret Kidder, confirming the existence of a Donner cut, triggered a fan petition to get Donner's version released. Sound familiar? And then in November of 2006, Superman 2, the Richard Donner cut, was indeed released. The majority of the film was shot back-to-back after production was completed on Batman v Superman. Additional scenes for the epilogue were filmed in October of 2020. At first, Warner Brothers announced that it would be a mini-series, but a few months later, it was changed to a feature-length film that would debut on HBO Max. I think making this a mini-series would have been the ideal way to present this, but I'll dive into that more later on in the episode. Shots of Superman in the nightmare sequences are actually borrowed footage of Henry Cavill from both Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. When Lois opens a drawer, an unpackaged pregnancy test stick can be seen, and I'll get into that as well later on in the episode. And then lastly, the final fight with Steppenwolf is twice as long as the theatrical cut, or Whedon cut, as some fans have redubbed it. But with that, let's get into my thoughts on Zack Snyder's Justice League. So this is the film that I have been most excited about ever since I announced that Cinematic Reviews will be covering the DC Extended Universe. I have always supported and been a part of the release of the Snyder Cut movement since its conception following the release of the theatrical cut, or Whedon cut as is now being called. I absolutely hated that theatrical version, and even though Snyder's version is 4 hours long, I think it's still a far superior film. Yes, 4 hours is a very long time, but it honestly needed that many hours in order to be a cohesive story. Now, I do believe that it should have been two separate movies, or at the very least, cut down to, say, 2.5 hours. But at least Snyder's version was released. It's out there for the world to watch. That's the more important thing to take from all of this. The studio finally realized that they fucked up, and they gave Snyder the opportunity to show what his vision was for the Justice League. Now, this film was meant to spawn many more projects down the line. We would have seen a Flash movie, Batman solo film, even Cyborg movie come from all of it. That obviously didn't happen. Right now, the Flash film is the only one that survived. Affleck's solo Batman film turned into Robert Pattinson's Batman, which was directed by Matt Reeves. And Cyborg, from what I understand, has been completely cut out of the DCEU, which is very disappointing. I think Ray Fisher was awesome as Cyborg in this film. He truly is the heart of the film, which, from what I understand, was Snyder's intention. This was Cyborg's movie. I loved the role that he played in. I really liked the design of him, but I wasn't a huge fan of that sweatsuit look on him. I thought it was a bit off at times, but the actual design of Cyborg is so badass. This was also supposed to be the grand debut of Jason Momoa's Aquaman and Ezra Miller's Flash as well. They both have solo films coming up, which is even more exciting now because of the most recent announcement of Affleck's Batman playing a role in both films. I love Momoa's take on Aquaman, even though I was never a fan of the Aquaman character itself. I admit I was one of the many DC fans that made fun of the character. Momoa, I though made the character really badass in Snyder's Justice League, though. I have completely opposite thoughts on the character in the Aquaman movie, but I'll save all those negative thoughts for next week's episode. I love him in Justice League, though. He was mysterious yet really fun to watch on screen. I love the scene where him and Diana are talking about the history between their two races. There's a lot of DC lore behind that whole conversation they had, and I really recommend you check out that part of the DC universe. It's really interesting stuff. Now, at first, I wasn't a fan of Ezra Miller being cast in the Flash role. I'm a little more high on it now after watching Justice League and seeing the trailers for the Flash movie a couple times. Obviously, with all the controversy around Miller right now, I'm not a fan of the actor, but I am a slightly bigger fan of this version of the Flash based on the performance in Justice League. The Flash isn't the ridiculous comic relief that we saw in the Whedon cut, but I think he still is that comic relief in Snyder's to a point. The thing I love about Snyder's version is that everyone has comedic beats that hit for me. The Flash, though, is still the bigger comic relief, which is perfect because I always associated the character with that concept. In the comics and cartoons, I always remember the Flash cracking jokes to break the tension in certain situations. He was always a fun character, and I think Miller did a great job as the Flash. We also get Affleck's Batman, Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman, and Henry Cavill's Superman returning in Justice League, and I think they all continue to absolutely kill it in these roles. I love Affleck's take on Batman. I wish we would have seen way more of him in the DCEU, but at least he's getting the justice that he deserves with being a part of both the Flash and Aquaman movies coming up. I think Pattinson did an awesome job as Batman in his solo film, but to be honest, Affleck is the only one I want to see as Batman right now. He is by far my favorite live action take on the character. And my thoughts on Cavill are exactly the same, but for the Superman character. He is the only person I want to see play Superman right now. Like Affleck, he too deserves some justice after the debacle that was the theatrical cut of Justice League. Rumors are that he will pop up in the upcoming Black Adam movie with Dwayne Johnson, but I'll believe that when I see it, though. There hasn't been any official announcements about Cavill coming back to the universe, so my expectations are still pretty low on that. But as for Wonder Woman, Gal returning as Diana is 100% something that I believe, because Warner Brothers Discovery has announced that she will be in future projects. Rumor is that she will play a major role in the Shazam sequel that's coming out. That I believe more because it makes sense considering that the title of the film is Fury of the Gods. Gal's take on Wonder Woman mirrors my thoughts on Affleck and Cavill, of course. She absolutely kills it in the role, especially in Snyder's Justice League. I not only love all of her action scenes, but all the other scenes as well. One of my favorites would have to be her in the Batcave. Whether it was her talking with Alfred or Bruce, I'm totally in the camp of Diana and Bruce having a relationship. They have great chemistry together, and I could see a spark between them in this film. Maybe that's still on the table. Who knows at this point? Perhaps that was Snyder's original intention way down the line with shipping these two characters together. Two other characters that I want to bring up before the break is Jeremy Irons as Alfred and J.K. Simmons as Commissioner Gordon. If you remember during the Batman v Superman episode, I absolutely love Irons as Alfred. I think this is the perfect take on the character. No disrespect, of course, to Michael Caine in the Nolan trilogy. I just like this relationship more. Alfred in the DCEU is such a smartass, but he truly loves Bruce as a son. I love all of their scenes together. Give us a Batman movie with Irons and Affleck just debating with each other in the Batcave. They're perfect as these two iconic characters. Now, we only get a couple scenes with J.K. Simmons' version of James Gordon, but I think he was still awesome. He definitely had that iconic look down with the hair and the glorious mustache that he had. I think I would rank Gary Oldman's Gordon from the Nolan trilogy a spot higher than Simmons, though, but that doesn't take anything away from Snyder's version of the character. Nolan, I think, just did more with the character. He, of course, had more time because he did an entire trilogy. I mean, J.K. Simmons only really had 2 to 3 scenes to work with. But regardless of that, I think Simmons still was awesome in the role. Far better than the Gordon and Tim Burton's or Joel Schumacher's Batmans, of course. Let's take a quick break with the trivia game before diving into the segments. So for any new listeners out there, this is the part of the show where we take a quick break with a trivia game to kind of add some extra fun to the show. I came across this toughest Zack Snyder's Justice League quiz online that you can find through Google. If you Google toughest Zack Snyder's Justice League quiz, feel free to pause the episode here to look that up, pull it up, and follow along with me. Or if you just want to listen to me take the quiz, you can also do that as well. If you are ready, we're going to get started here. But like I said, if you want to pull it up and have an easier time following along, feel free to pause the episode and then come back when you're ready. So let's get started. First question. What is Darkseid's advisors called? Is it Calibec, Graven, Desaad, or Grail? I believe it is Desaad. He is a character that I'm not too familiar with, but I do remember Steppenwolf saying Desaad a couple of times. Next question. What is the first act of the movie called? Is it The Age of Heroes, Don't Count on It, Batman, Change Machine, or Beloved Mother, Beloved Son? Believe it is Don't Count on It, Batman, because he goes to Aquaman first. So I'm going to go with that. I believe Age of Heroes was the second act. Third question. What is the term for when the 3 mother boxes fuse? Is it called the unity, the convergence, the mess, or the synchronity? However you say that. Convergence, I think, was from Thor and Marvel. I think it's unity. I remember that word being tossed around a lot. So I'm going to go with unity for this. Who is the nanotechnologist that works with Silas Stone, who I believe was Victor Stone's dad or Cyborg? Was it Ray Palmer, Al Pratt, Brian Choi, or Kenny Kong? Now, I do recognize Ray Palmer. He is the Atom in the Arrowverse on the CW, so that can't be right. I'm going to go with Ryan Choi. I think that sounds more right. I'm not too familiar with that character as well. He's only in a couple scenes. Question 5. Where do the Justice League first meet Steppenwolf? Was it in Gotham, Metropolis, Star City, or Central City? I believe it was Gotham because they were fighting him in Gotham Harbor. So we're going to go with that. Next question. Who hits Darkseid with an arrow? Was it Artemis, Ares, Antiope, or Hippolyta? This is a tough one. It's not Ares because he has the axes. Hippolyta was Wonder Woman's mother, I believe. So it's Artemis or Antiope. We're gonna go with Artemis. I think she was the one that shot the arrow. Question 7. Which of these characters did not appear in Joss Whedon's Justice League? Was it Iris West, Mira, Volko, or Granny Goodness? Which one did appear? I believe it was Mira. Mira was the only one I think was in there because they were trying to connect the Aquaman movie. So we're going to go with Mira. Question 8. How long is Zack Snyder's Justice League? Is it 181 minutes, 202 minutes, 222 minutes, or 242 minutes? I believe it was 4 hours and 2 minutes long. So do a quick little math there. For 242 minutes, we're going to go with. I hope my math is right. Question 9. What's the first thing that Superman says? Not impressed. I gotta go. Did I not before? Or watch it? I believe they're talking about the scene where the axe comes down on him. So we're going to go with not impressed. Question 10. Which of these Steppenwolf lines is not in Joss Whedon's Justice League? My axe is still lick with the blood of your sisters. Why do people keep telling me that? Primitive beings. This world will fall like all the others. I think it's primitive beings because I can see that scene in my head where in the theatrical cut, Steppenwolf grabs that missile that Cyborg fires at him and he looks at it and says primitive beings. I don't remember that being in Zack's version. So we're going to go with primitive beings. Next question. What is Batman's battle tank called? Is it the Nightcrawler, Colossus, Juggernaut, or Bat Tank? I mean, Bat Tank makes a lot of sense, but I believe he says, Alfred, give me the Nightcrawler. Who plays Darkseid? Is it Michael McKeaton, Peter Guinness, Ciaran Hinds, or Ray Porter? I believe it was Ray Porter. That name is jumping out at me. Which temple does Hippolyta light up with an Amazonian arrow? Is it the Temple of Hippolyta, Chapel of Antiope, House of the Mascara, or the Shrine of the Amazons? Chapel of... This is tough. I don't think it's the House of the Mascara. Maybe the Shrine of the Amazons. We're going to go with the Chapel of Antiope, however you say that. Chapel of some guy there. Question 14. Which scene wasn't filmed during the final reshoot? Darkseid on Apocalypse, The Nightmare, Batman meeting Martian Manhunter, or Martian Manhunter meeting Lois Lane? Which scene wasn't filmed during the final reshoot? I believe the Batman meeting Martian Manhunter was a reshoot. Darkseid on Apocalypse, I think, was already there. I think The Nightmare was a reshoot. I think Darkseid on Apocalypse wasn't a reshoot. So we're going to go with that one. That's a tough one, too. When was the original Justice League released? Was it in 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018? Well, this date will go down in history. So it was 2017. Same year as Wonder Woman that came out. Where does Bruce Wayne first meet Aquaman? Is it Norway, Iceland, Finland, or undisclosed? Ooh, that's tough. I'm going to go with, it's either Norway or Finland, I think. I'm going to go with Finland. Could be Norway, though. We're going to go with Finland. What does cyborg refer to the mother box as? Self-aware computer, evolving AI, change machine, or sentient cube? I think it's a change machine because they have an entire act called Change Machine. What is Darkseid's last line? Anti-life is found. Can it be true? I will claim my grand prize. We will use the old ways. I think this was when the boom tube opened up at the very end, where Steppenwolf was thrown and decapitated, and he goes, "Ready the Armada. We will use the old ways." So we're gonna go with the last one. We will use the old ways. What is the epilogue title? All the King's Horses, Something Darker, United, A Father Twice Over. I think it was Father Twice Over because we get that recording of Silas Stone talking to Cyborg. So we're gonna go with that. Who does Zack Snyder cameo as? Starlab's worker, parademon, spectator watching Victor Stone playing football, or a customer at the coffee shop? I believe it was a customer at the coffee shop because you can see him in the window of the shop when Lois gets the coffee. So we're going to go with that. So I got 80%. Unless I got a couple of those wrong. But which one did I get wrong? Oh. So not impressed wasn't the first thing he said. He did I not before when he was meeting Lois on the farm. I should have known that one. Which of these Steppenwolf lines is not unjust? Oh, it's not. I read that question wrong. That's 2 wrong. 3 wrong. So it was the Shrine of the Amazons that the temple is. Okay. Finland. Oh, it was Iceland. They're on that. So I got 4 wrong. 80%. Still pretty good for being the toughest quiz on Zack Snyder's Justice League. But feel free to share your score along with your thoughts on this 4-hour DC event on any of the Cinematic Reviews' social media pages. I would love to see all your guys' comments, discussions, concerns, all of that. It's honestly half the fun when I can converse with you guys on about the movies that we cover here on the show. I love talking about movies. I can do it for hours. So I would love to talk to you guys on social media or wherever you feel like doing. But with that, let's get to the segments. So up first, standout scenes. Now I tried to keep this list short, even though it was a 4-hour long movie. So let's get started. First, I have Superman's death from Batman v Superman. Now this sequence is a little too long for me, but it's so beautifully shot. This scene, along with the whole film, actually, is a piece of art. Snyder is creating art with his DC films, and I absolutely love it. Next, we have Wonder Woman versus the Anarchists. I really love this scene because of the awesome fight choreography in it. We get an updated theme song for Wonder Woman, which hits me really hard every time it gets kicked in. I just get so hyped for her scene when it starts off with that really cool theme song. The sequence with Diana blocking all the bullets with her gauntlets will go down as an iconic DCEU sequence. It's so well executed. She completely pulverizes that guy too at the end of the scene, which is completely insane. Did not see that coming from the Wonder Woman character. Next, we have the Age of Heroes story. I only like this scene because of the Green Lantern showing up in it. Otherwise, I wasn't a huge fan of it. I didn't care too much for this particular design of Darkseid. I like his updated version later on in the film way more. Every shot of Zeus was actually was just on repeat, I think, with the scene with him Kamehameha in that lightning strike. I think that was just a reused shot like 4 times. I love the design of the lanterns, though. With the 3D lantern core symbol on his coming out of his chest was really cool. It's just that everything else in that scene was kind of eh. I wasn't really into that whole scene, besides from the lantern, of course, flying around. And then Darkseid cutting his hand off, and you see a little ring flying around to go to his next chosen person. It's just really cool. Next, we have the Flash saving Iris West. Now, the slow motion was perfectly placed in this scene, I think. The Flash is really the only character that really needed slow-mo in this film. Him bursting out of his shoes was awesome, and him breaking through that glass was so incredible. I don't like the song choice though. It honestly made the scene kind of creepy towards the end of it. It was also way too long of a scene. I think it should have been cut in half, really. Next is Steppenwolf versus the Atlanteans. This is an awesome sequence that I really love. Also, the choreography again is so well executed. Mira pulling the water out of Steppenwolf is such an awesome moment to watch. It's just really Zack Snyder really knows how to give us some really cool action sequences. Bravo to him. Next, we have Steppenwolf versus Justice League Round 1. This scene was really butchered in the theatrical cut. It's an awesome sequence with Diana going up against Steppenwolf and the Flash pushing her sword back up her in that one scene when she loses it. It's so visually pleasing. I just really love it. The only issue I had with this scene though is the stupid staircase scenes. We first see the Justice League walking up the freaking stairs, which should have been cut. There was no need for that to be in it at all. And then we see the Flash running up and down the stairs as all the Star Labs hostages are walking up it to safety. The Flash should have really used his speed to get them out of there. It would have been a way better. It would have been a way better scene if we saw him just save each of them like we did in the theatrical cut. That's probably the only thing I liked about the theatrical cut was we actually get that moment between him and Batman where Batman's telling him like just save one, and we get this little nervous Flash who doesn't know what to do, and Bruce is just trying to connect with him and say just save one and go from there. I really like that scene, and I wish Snyder would have just like Snyder-fied it, kind of put his own twist on it and included that because I think that was a really good scene from the theatrical, which you won't hear me say very often. But next we get the Martian Manhunter reveal. This scene was completely unnecessary, even though I love that Martian Manhunter is officially in the universe. It's way too early though to introduce him. Snyder should have saved him for part 3 of his trilogy. I'm not a huge fan of the design of him either, but maybe if we do get parts 2 and 3, maybe Snyder will tweak it a little bit, maybe some better CGI on him. Next, we get Resurrecting Superman. This scene is awesome because it's where we see the Flash reverse time for the first time. We also get the nightmare vision that Cyborg sees, which is really crazy. I personally like all the nightmare stuff, but I do agree that they should have been saved for post-credit scenes. This nightmare sequence in particular, though, makes sense having it here because Cyborg was connected to the mother box during this part. But all the other nightmare stuff, like the Batman v Superman and all that other stuff, should have been in a post-credit scene. That's what I like about the epilogue with the nightmare stuff. Like that was towards the end of the film where it belongs as kind of like a sneak peek. Snyder really shouldn't have incorporated the nightmare stuff into the core of the story. It was really unnecessary to do that in Batman v Superman. But here, I think in this scene in particular, it was used well because there was a reason behind it. Cyborg was connected to the mother box, which triggered these premonitions or visions. So I think that was a really smart choice on his part. Then we get Superman versus the Justice League after he gets resurrected. This is another sequence that will become a very iconic moment in the universe. The choreography is freaking awesome. I think it did a great job at showing how powerful Superman really is. He was able to take on the entire league without breaking a sweat. Him and Diana headbutting each other is probably my favorite part of it, where she headbutts him and he's like, oh, really? Well, fuck you. And he headbutts her even harder into the ground. Such a good sequence. Then we get Superman getting the black suit. This black suit is badass and I absolutely love it. If I remember right, and tell me if I'm wrong, guys, the black suit makes Kryptonians stronger during battle. I think I swore I read that somewhere when the black suit was first announced. I don't know if it came from Snyder or if it was actual DC lore. But I could be wrong, but I could have sworn I read that somewhere. Just let me know. And then even though I wasn't a huge fan of Jonathan Kent in Man of Steel, I do really love him and Jor-El talking to Clark during the scene when he gets the suit. It was such a get hype moment for me. I mean, Kevin Costner and Russell Crowe are such great actors, and I think they were really utilized very well in this scene. Then we get Steppenwolf versus the Justice League Round 2. This is another scene that the theatrical cut completely butchered. I love this whole sequence. Batman driving around with the Batmobile. and the whole league fighting around him was so cool. It's such an awesome, like, 25 to 30 minute stretch of the film. And then we get Superman coming in and just handing Steppenwolf his ass. That was really cool as well. I just love all the fighting in this film overall. Snyder, like I said, does such an awesome job with action. Then we get the Flash reversing time. So I love this scene because it shows that the Justice League actually failed to their mission. But they have a cheat code, of course, and that cheat code is Barry. Barry runs back in time in order to reverse the effects of the mother boxes synchronizing. It's a really visually pleasing sequence that blows my mind every time I watch it. Snyder really did justice to the Flash character in this film. I'm really impressed with everything that he did. And then the last standout scene that I have on the list is the nightmare stuff during the epilogue. I'm probably in the minority, but I really love this sequence. Only because of the Batman and Joker interaction. Their back and forth is so awesome. Again, that's that nerd shit that I'm a sucker for. Give me an entire movie of Affleck's Batman and Leto's Joker just talking shit to each other. When Batman brings up Harley Quinn, I was like, oh shit, things just got real. I love that whole thing. That was the highlight of the movie for me. Next up is favorite quotes. So the first one I have is Bruce saying, worked for 20 years in Gotham. And Aquaman responds, oh, that's shithole. I just love how Gotham is just universally this shithole of a city. As Aquaman says, I just love that little touch of detail. Then we get the Amazon Queen, who is Wonder Woman's mom. I think it's Hippolyta. I'm probably butchering the name, of course. She says, daughters of the Mascara, show me your fear. And the Amazon respond, we have no fear. That's just such a badass line, and I love hearing it every time. We get Barry saying, what are your superpowers again? And Bruce responds, I'm rich. It's totally what Bruce Wayne would say in a moment like that. That's why I love it so much. It's really good characterization of Bruce Wayne. The next quote I have is Cyborg saying, relax, Alfred. I'll take it from here. And Alfred responds, do I know you? Alfred just gets the best lines in this movie. And Jeremy Irons delivers them so well. He's probably my favorite character of the universe next to Affleck's Batman. I just love how he plays the character of Alfred. The next song I have is Darkseid saying, I have brought 100,000 worlds to dust looking for the anti-life. I like this quote for two things. One, it's a badass line coming from Darkseid about 100,000 worlds turned to dust. That's a lot. And then him bringing up anti-life, which is some more nerd shit that I love. And I'll get into the whole anti-life thing in a couple of segments later. But such a really badass line from Darkseid. Next quote I have is Bruce saying, we're 6, not 5. There's no us without him. I love Bruce's loyalty to Superman since his death. It's really good characterization. Next quote I have written down is the future has taken root in the present. This is just a really cool line that I like. I think this was from Steppenwolf. I can't remember for sure who says it. But I just really love that line. Next is Bruce saying, everyone, this is Alfred. I work for him. Probably one of my favorite lines in the film. I love this whole 180 that Bruce has taken ever since the events of Batman v Superman. He's not that cold-blooded, down in the dumps anti-hero that he was. He's now trying to become a better man, trying to become a better Bruce, a better Batman. And he's really showing how much he loves Alfred. And like I keep saying, I love their relationship together. Another line from Bruce that I really love is, I don't care how many demons he's fought and how many hells, he's never fought us, not us united. I remember this one being a really standout line in the trailers when they announced Snyder's Justice League. And it's still one of my favorite lines. It's just a really badass thing for Bruce to say when they're getting hyped for a battle. And then one last line from Bruce that I like is, faith, Alfred, faith. Again, tying into the other line that I love is him doing this complete 180 turn on his view of the universe. He's got more hope. He's got more faith in their group of heroes, and he's trying to stay loyal. And I love this version of Batman versus... I like the dark version of him in Batman v Superman, but I think I prefer this more hopeful side of Bruce. Then another line from Cyborg that I really like is, "I'm not broken and I'm not alone." I mean, like I said, this is Cyborg's movie, and I love his whole arc in the movie, how he's become this moody college kid who lost his mom, who's got a really strained relationship with his dad. He's part machine because of the accident. But once he meets the Justice League and he talks to Diana and he goes through all this stuff during the movie, he's a better man. He's like he feels whole again, and I really love that line. And then lastly, the entire dialogue between Batman and Joker in the epilogue, like I mentioned in the standout scenes, like when he brings up Robin and Batman just like really digs the knife deeper into Joker by bringing up Harley Quinn. It's just, I love those two dishing shit back and forth with each other. And I really want a movie with just those two together. It's so good. And then Batman straight up threatens to kill Joker. Oh, I just lost my shit during that. It was so good. So the next segment is comic book lore. This is where I try to pull out some really deep comic book stuff for you guys and kind of talk about that. So the first one I found was, of course, the anti-life equation. This probably confused a lot of people when it was brought up in the film. This is actually a huge thing in the comics. The anti-life is basically a mind controlling tool that Darkseid uses to invade worlds. It's actually a mathematical equation. I have it written down if anyone's curious. It's a loneliness plus alienation plus fear plus despair plus self minus worth divided by mockery divided by condemnation divided by misunderstanding times guilt times shame times failure times judgment. It's an actual mathematical equation. I'll get into more detail on this later, but this equation is how the Nightmare stuff happens. Darkseid wins by getting his hands on this equation and taking over Earth. But it's I find it really interesting, but that's just because because I know it from the comics. I know general moviegoers aren't going to know what this is, and they don't really go into a whole lot of detail. I mean, they kind of mention it, but it's once you understand it, and I do recommend you guys go out and read a couple of comics or just do some research online. Like this part of DC is really interesting, and I really recommend you guys kind of research it a little bit too. Next one I have is the Martian Manhunter character. Like I said earlier, I think he should have been introduced later in the trilogy, maybe part 3. There's just too much stuff in this film, and adding Martian Manhunter, he's such a huge character in the comics. It makes this film really bloated. But he is a member of the Justice League in the comics and the cartoons, but he honestly needs a solo film because he's, like I said, he's such a huge character in the universe. He needs to be fleshed out in his own film because his origin, if you've seen the cartoons or read the comics, it's actually a pretty interesting origin. I mean, he's from Mars as Martian Manhunter, and he loses his wife and his kids and his race, it's a really, really cool origin. And I hope they do make a Martian Manhunter film soon, because I think he's a character that movie, not just DC fans, but moviegoers in general could fall in love with. He's really interesting, and I'm really glad. And I'm really glad he was in the film. It's just there's just so much stuff in this 4-hour film that I wish they would have just saved him for a solo film and then plug him into part 3 of the Justice League. I think there was a better way of utilizing him. And then the next one is the Cosmic Treadmill, which I totally nerd out at when I figured out when I noticed the connections they were making to it. The film doesn't come out and say it, Cosmic Treadmill, but it is heavily implied that this is what Batman and the team, that's their mission in the Nightmare stuff, is getting Barry to the Cosmic Treadmill. Now, for those that don't know, the Cosmic Treadmill is the machine that allows the Flash to go even further back in time. As you saw in the film, Barry can turn back time a few seconds, maybe a few minutes. But the Cosmic Treadmill allows him to go like decades into the past. In the comics, he actually uses it quite a bit. It's a huge element. It's another huge element that I wish Snyder would have saved for later. And I know he doesn't specifically say Cosmic Treadmill in this first part, but with Batman v Superman, with that quick scene of the Flash coming back and talking to Bruce. That's a huge monumental moment that should have been saved for later. And that's why I agree with his decision to put that nightmare stuff at the end of Justice League, is because they don't really need to put that in there. I mean, that's like part 2, part 3 stuff. But like Martian Manhunter and the Anti-Life Equation, I do recommend you guys do some research on the Cosmic Treadmill or go read some of the comics, because it's a really cool element of the DC universe. And then the next one is Darkseid's Homeworld, which the film mentions the homeworld, but not by name. The name of his world is called Apocalypse. It's Apokolips. If you're looking for a really good movie on not just on Darkseid, but like Justice League and all of that stuff, I highly recommend the animated movie Justice League Dark Apocalypse War. There is a lot of Darkseid in it, and it's just a really well made animated movie that I really love, and I think I honestly think that'd be a good thing to watch before this, maybe, just so you kind of get familiar with Darkseid a little bit and all that. But yeah, check that out. I really do recommend that for if you're curious on the whole Darkseid, or go read some of the comics. Darkseid's a huge figure in the comics. The next thing I have is the boom tubes. This is how Steppenwolf gets around in the film. We see him jumping through all these portals. Snyder doesn't call them boom tubes in the film, but that's what the portals are called. Cyborg is actually able to summon them in both comics and animated movies. So that'd be really cool to see if they do bring Ray Fisher back and he kind of learns how to summon those. That'd be a really cool element to put into the DC universe. And then lastly, I have Ryan Choi, aka the Atom. In the comics, Ryan is he's actually the Atom in the comics. In the film, he's Dr. Stone's partner at Star Labs. For those that don't know, the Atom is basically DC's version of Ant-Man, kind of. He kind of shrinks and does some weird stuff with his atoms, of course, is why they call him Atom. But like Martian Manhunter, I do recommend you guys, grab a couple of comics or go research online. And the Atom is a pretty cool character in the DC universe. I really hope they do kind of continue off of this little seed and bring back Ryan Choi as the Atom. That'd be really cool to see. So next, we have the negatives. Surprisingly, I only have a couple. I mean, I really love this movie, so I only found a few things that stood out to me that really, not really irritated me, but bothered me a little bit enough to put it in the negative segment. So first, I have the ladies singing about Aquaman at the beginning of the film. This part was just stupid. It should have been cut. I roll my eyes so hard every time it comes on. Really unnecessary scene. Next one I have is way too much slow-mo. You could honestly trim the film down 30 or 40 minutes by simply getting rid of a lot of the unnecessary slow motion in it. The Flash, of course, should have the majority of the slow-mo mixed in with his choreography. It just makes the most sense to me. But it felt like every other shot was slow-mo in this movie for some reason. I know Snyder loves that in his films, but this is a great example of how not to use slow motion. The film is just way too long, and the amount of it slow-mo it's too much. And that's a huge part of why a lot of backlash has come onto this film, is because for once it's the runtime, and the runtime is because you have 30 to 40 minutes of unnecessary slow motion. Really, a couple of scenes of Wonder Woman should have had it. Yeah, a majority of the Flash scenes should have had slow motion, but that's it. We really didn't need every 5 minutes of there being a 3-minute slow motion sequence. It's just too much, Zack. So try to trim it down if you ever do get the opportunity of parts 2 and 3. Just, cut it. Try to leave the slow motion to characters like the Flash. It'd be a lot better movie-going experience if you don't have way too much slow motion in it. It just drags the movie on way too much. Next negative I have is the question that always comes to my mind. If Darkseid was on Earth before, how did he not know it was Earth? This has always confused me. I ask it every time I watch this movie. If Darkseid found the anti-life equation on Earth before, like we saw in that scene with the Age of Heroes, How the hell did he not know where Earth was? It just doesn't make any sense to me. It's a huge plot hole that bugs me. I'm not quite sure what the writing was behind all that. And then lastly, like I mentioned before, the 2 staircase scenes. These 2 scenes were really dumb and should have been cut out of the film. We did not need to see a couple-minute clip of the Justice League walking up the stairs. Just do a splash cut to it. And we didn't need the Flash running up and down, telling people to hurry up or shooing them along up the stairs. Like I said, the only thing I liked about the theatrical cut is they used the Flash in a good way. Batman had that confidence boost of telling him just save one and go from there. And then we see the Flash take one. He starts with Dr. Stone, and then he grabs one, and then one, and then one, and he saves them with his powers. That's how you do a scene like that. We don't need to see them walking up these 10 flights of stairs while the Flash is just running back and forth, up and down, shooing everybody along. It's just, those are really stupid scenes, and they could have cut them out to save on the runtime for sure. Really unnecessary scenes. But that's really all I have for negatives. Like I said, I absolutely love this movie, and I'm really impressed with how well it was made. It's just like the rest of the universe, it's a little messy. There's some stuff that you have to point out and maybe fix down the road with parts 2 and 3 if he ever gets the opportunity. Next is the DCEU rankings. So as a refresher, here's the list so far as it is. Number 1, Zack Snyder's Justice League. Number 2, Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice Ultimate Edition. Coming at number 3 is Man of Steel, followed by Wonder Woman, The Suicide Squad, Shazam, Birds of Prey, Aquaman at number 8, Suicide Squad, and rounding out the list at number 10, Wonder Woman 1984. So this is really tough for me. I had a lot of fun with this rewatch of Justice League, but I also had a blast with Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. Zod, such a terrific villain in Man of Steel. But there are so many awesome moments in Batman v Superman, like Batman fighting Superman in the armored suit and the incredible shot of the Robin suit in the glass case in the Batcave. It was all the right kind of nerd shit that I eat up. I think I'm going to keep Justice League as my number 1, though. I just really like Darkseid and Steppenwolf in this. Steppenwolf is actually a really compelling villain who just wants back into his family. He was cast out by Darkseid for fucking up, and he's trying to earn his way back into there. Now, speaking of Darkseid, he is menacing as fuck, and I really hope Snyder gets the opportunity to bring him back for parts 2 and 3 of Justice League. And the Justice League itself is incredible, especially Cyborg, who is the heart of the film. He was shafted so hard in the theatrical cut, but he was definitely redeemed in this film. The action sequences are also phenomenal, even though I do agree, like I said in the negative segment, there's way too much slow motion in them. You can easily shave off 40 minutes of the movie by just cutting out the unnecessary slow motion. Now, the cliffhanger with the nightmare was unnecessary, but I really like it. That's the kind of nerd shit that I love. Seeing Affleck's Batman talking shit to Jared Leto's Joker was an awesome moment. So Justice League, I think, will keep the number 1 spot for me. But feel free, of course, to share your ranking of the DC Extended Universe on all Cinematic Reviews social media pages, as long as your thoughts on the film and whatever else you want to talk. If you have questions on DC lore or any kind of background information as far as the behind the scenes of the film in the movie, parts 2 and 3 of Justice League, if you have any questions there, feel free to reach out to me. I'll gladly answer that and get in discussions with you guys, because that's honestly half the fun of doing the show. Is I love talking to people about movies. I can do it for hours. That's why I did this podcast. And I would love people to reach out to me and, start discussions, create a fan base that can be interactive with me, and we can just have a blast talking about movies and superhero stuff like this. It's really cool. So feel free to reach out through social media and yeah, throw out your rankings there. I would love to see how the rankings differ from people to people, because I know every list isn't going to be the same. I mean, I'm probably in a minority with some of the spots that I put here, but yeah, you can find this list, of course, on Letterboxd and IMDb. Just search for Cinematic Reviews along with all the other lists I've done for the show. And there's some other lists on there that I've done for fun that I haven't brought up on the show yet. So go ahead and explore those. There's a lot of, I think there's like 20 lists out there that I've done. So feel free to go out there and explore it. Now, to end the episode, I'm going to talk about what Snyder had in mind for parts 2 and 3 of the Justice League trilogy. So if you want to know, stick around for that. And because I'm going to be talking about that whole Snyder's 5 movie arc and how it concluded and what was going to come out of it. If you would rather not know and avoid spoilers, just in case he does get the opportunity to make the 2 and 3, I completely understand that. You're a lot stronger than I am. Once Justice League came out, I had to know what Snyder's vision was. I was just really excited about this movie, and I wanted to know more. But if you don't want to know, feel free to jump off the episode right here, because I'm gonna dive deep into these parts 2 and 3 of what would have been this Justice League trilogy by Zack Snyder. So when Zack's Justice League was announced for HBO and he was doing the press tour from it and doing interviews, he actually revealed in a couple of interviews of what 2 and 3 were going to consist of, and here's the breakdown of those parts that he revealed in an interview. So starting off with part 2, we would see Superman turned against the Justice League, like we saw in the Nightmare stuff, after the death of Lois. Darkseid does this by using the anti-life equation on him that I mentioned in the comic book lore segment of the show. Death is something that can open someone to the anti-life, even a Kryptonian. They're not immune to this equation. That's why Darkseid is so hell-bent on getting it, because it's the absolute mind control device. Now, supposedly, a lot of part 2 was going to involve Batman and the team that we saw at the end with Deathstroke, Mira, Flash, Cyborg, and Joker, of course. Their mission was going to get the Flash to the cosmic treadmill. That would allow him to go back far enough in time to stop Darkseid or warn Bruce of Darkseid. Now, between parts 1 and 2, there were supposedly multiple solo films planned, like Affleck's Batman film, another Wonder Woman film, I think, and then the Cyborg film. Parts 2 and 3 of Justice League were going to come out back to back, kind of like how Infinity War and Endgame did, I believe. Now, part 3, this was going to involve Batman finally realizing that he has to die in order to prevent Lois's death. That was why Superman was easily turned. He was convinced that Bruce let Lois die, and he was hell-bent on basically killing him. This is also where the Justice League trilogy connects with Batman v Superman, if you remember, with Barry coming back in time to warn Bruce about how Lois is the key. This would trigger Bruce's mind that he has to die in order to save Lois, and preventing this domino effect of Darkseid taking control over Superman with the anti-life equation. So Bruce's death would be the key to bringing the Justice League together with Superman and defeating Darkseid for good. Now, Clark and Lois, who is pregnant, as the pregnancy stick in this part 1 suggested, they would have a son and call him Bruce after Bruce Wayne for his sacrifice. The film would end with them bringing little Bruce to the Batcave as a hint that he would become the next Batman. Green Lantern was also going to make his debut during part 3. Now, which version of Green Lantern, I'm not sure. I think Zack Snyder hinted at it being the Jon Stewart version of Green Lantern. It could have also been Hal Jordan. I'm not positive on that. I did see some behind the scenes shots and some footage of a Jon Stewart version of Green Lantern, so that could have been the route that he was taking. Martian Manhunter was going to play a huge role in part 3 as well, I'm sure. I honestly think this is a freaking bonkers, but I kind of dig it. Parts 2 and 3 sound really awesome on paper. I'm not too crazy about little Bruce becoming the next Batman. But hey, maybe Snyder can make it work. Batman sacrificing himself to save Lois is going to be a huge heartbreaker for fans if Snyder does get the chance to film the rest of his vision. Bravo to Snyder for thinking of a different story, though, instead of going strictly off the comics word for word. I'm a huge supporter of directors deviating from comics a bit. I highly encourage it, because if you go word for word off the comics, then a lot of people are going to know how it ends. I personally love being surprised. I love twists. I hope Snyder gets the opportunity to finish his trilogy. He deserves it after all the shit he's dealt with over the years with the toxic fandom and the whole WB debacle with the execs and all that. Releasing his version of Justice League was a step in the right direction, and hopefully the studio continues to realize that they really could benefit from the releases of parts 2 and 3. I think it would be a huge benefit on their part to kind of salvage this universe, because I know the big restore the Snyderverse movement is going on right now, and I'm gonna honestly say I am a part of that. I'm vocally supporting the Snyderverse being reinstated in this universe, because we've seen, I mean, you've probably seen that really fun meme of Leo DiCaprio from The Wolf of Wall Street, where he's like, I've seen the DCEU without Snyder, I've seen the DCEU with Snyder, and I choose Zack Snyder every time. That's honestly how I feel right now. Like, we've seen multiple projects of when Snyder is involved and when he's not involved, and the numbers show that when Snyder is involved and his stuff is connected together, it's a lot more, I wouldn't say neat, but it's less messy than where the universe is right now. And I just really hope they give Zack Snyder that call and say, hey, come finish your trilogy, finish your 5-movie arc, and finish your groundwork for us to create this cool universe. I really hope so. I'm speaking to you now, Warner Brothers Discovery. Make it happen. I know Zack has his contract with Netflix right now, so he's probably a little tied up, but give him a call. Sit him down. Say, hey, help us fix this. You know, here's a few $100 million. Finish your trilogy. Help us lay the groundwork so we can go on with this universe. Well, that'll do it for the Snyder Cut episode here on Cinematic Reviews. Tune in next Friday for my thoughts on Aquaman. Also, a new release Monday will be coming out next week as well. I'll be giving my reaction to the live-action Pinocchio movie that actually dropped on Disney Plus yesterday in celebration of its Disney Plus Day. So check out that movie this weekend and come back on Monday to hear my thoughts on it. Until then, though, later, everyone.